Hello, everybody. Welcome back to this edition of Spitball and Sports. I'm John, and you can see I'm without Scott tonight. I think he explained to you guys one time before that he gets hiccups. Matter of fact, I know he did. And when he gets the hiccups, it's like really bad. They'll go for days to the point where we end up maybe at an emergency room. So obviously he can't be here with us tonight because the hiccups are killing him. Robin's here, doing what she does, and yeah, so it's just me. It's been a long time since it's been just me. This is what it used to be for a while. So very good. I'm pretty excited to get into this. We're waiting for our guest John Suchan to show up from Cleveland, sportstalk.com, and we'll get into the Cleveland Browns with him as soon as he arrives. But either way, like I said, Scott will be back with us next week. I know the following week, I believe we're going to have I think we're going to have Will Akins with us from with the Steelers, and then we're lining up someone for the Vikings too. We're trying to get someone every week, maybe all the way until the NFL season at least starts, because it does help. Because as you know, as the off season drags on, there's a lot of stuff going on, but it gets monotonous, as you can tell, because we're in the dog days of it right now, even with baseball and different off-season stuff. But yeah, so Scott couldn't be here tonight. Unfortunately, the hiccups get him, and it's not even funny. The poor guy gets them. He gets them so bad, he ends up. It could go for days. So hopefully he'll be okay for us for next week. But I do believe we have our guest with us now, and he's a return guest. We had him last year. He is everywhere when it comes to Cleveland. Let's bring him in here. Let me bring my friend John Suchan in. Hey, John.
Hello, can you hear me?
Let me see. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, can you hear me?
I got you very lightly. I'm having a hard time. Let me see if my volume's good. Hold on.
Okay.
Let me check on my end. Let's see. All right, that might be me. John, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hear you perfectly now. That was me. I'm
Oh,
a mess.
oh,
I'm out of
that's
sorts,
great.
man. My co-host, you didn't get a chance to meet him again. He gets these chronic hiccups. And
I just thought maybe he was trying to avoid me.
yeah, I know he's a big Bills fan. So maybe he is, because the Browns are sneaking up,
That's right.
you know?
That's right.
Anyways, John here. Let me make sure I got this right. You do Johnny Cleveland podcast, right?
Right, which is now part of our new Fanatical Elvz network, which is part of this other network, broader, called Fans First Sports Network.
Awesome. You're all over, man. And you're the perfect guy, because we're trying to get every team, someone to represent every team that we can. And next week we got a Steelers fan, so how perfect to have you, someone who covers the Browns.
Well, I'm going to be much better than him, so I'll
You'd
just
have,
say
yeah.
that.
I'm going to tell you what, though. I think they're creeping up. We'll have to talk about that.
Okay.
They might be creeping, not on you, but just in general. But anyways, I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
Let's start at the draft. What did your
Okay.
draft? How did you feel about it? I mean, I was happy with your guys getting a wide receiver, and
Yeah, that was a good move. I think it was a bit of a surprise coming where it did, but Cedric Tillman is a very good. He had some very outstanding games when he was in college at Tennessee. His thing was he had the injury bug, but if he could put it all together, he's a tall kid and gives Deshaun Watson another option. Browns are going to they have a lot of offensive weapons, and he'll just add to that. The other players they got in the draft were solid. We tried to shore up some of the things on the defensive tackle position with Ika
yep,
from Baylor.
yep,
And we had already picked up Delvin Tomlinson in free agency. So those two moves are great. We did release Perion Winfrey a couple days ago. He's had too many run-ins off the field again.
jeez.
And the kid came in from Oklahoma, has a lot of potential. But so those were some good moves during the draft. And yeah.
I,
I
I
think
want
I
to
think
ask you.
yeah,
Let me ask you about my Ohio State guys. I love
yes.
them. I love them. I mean, that kid Jones is like 6'2". I mean, he could be the biggest man I've ever seen play anywhere, like 6'6", 360. And then of course you guys got the center late. Are they? What do you think? Is there a chance that they stay or?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Oh,
I
good.
think Wimpler, he played center mostly at Ohio State, but Browns couldn't. I would say that he's got a. I mean, both have an excellent opportunity to stick. Wimpler could potentially be that starting guard. I mean, that starting center sooner than later. That position at center has been off and on. We had the Ethan Pochik, who's the guy that we had signed, who has a spot now. But this with football, anything can happen on the offensive line. And if injuries, and that's been the Browns' bugaboo on the offensive line the last couple of years. So and Jones, yeah, he's a big what he's like
Oh,
6'2", 6'6". He's huge. He's a
he's huge.
ginormous. Yeah. So I'm excited. We're all excited about that. I mean, for Buckeye fans and for Browns fans, this is a pretty significant move during the draft. I think I wrote about it from one of the folks I write for, and it's been so many like years, 30 some years, I think, that the Browns hadn't drafted two Buckeyes in a single draft, which is kind of unreal to think about it, that you're just down the road from Ohio State and every other team in the NFL, including all of the AFC North teams. Steelers always pluck Ohio State players. So it's nice that the Browns have gone back to that. And hopefully it's a good trend that keeps going.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, those two guys, Whippler going that late, like in the seventh round. I don't know. It was, and everyone that watches knows what a big Ohio State fan I am, and so I watch every game, every single game. I won't miss.
All
And
right.
when I saw these, I was happy for Cleveland. I really was. I have to tell you, it was nice. I agree with you. It was really nice. Jones, though, there's something, man. If his foot speed is fine and all that, I can't
Mm-hmm.
imagine that he's not going to be a guy that's around for, you could have him for 8, 10 years, just solid. Uh,
Yes, and that was the one thing that we all talked about when we were doing our draft coverage, and since then, is just the number of like big guys that the Browns have drafted. I mean, large guys, tall guys that can catch the ball. Big guys on the line. We haven't had guys that size for Browns teams in quite a while. So it's another direction, and I think it's going to pay off.
all right, now I want to get into more. Deshaun Watson, obviously, we're not going to get it. He's fine. He's here now. He's playing. He's got a full off season, which is great for him.
Mhm.
What is the feeling up there in Cleveland and the air about him? Because he obviously, we all know, is the key. Because if he unlocks what he was before, we were talking about this last week. I
Mhm.
think they could actually be a thorn in Cincinnati's side and possibly be even more. What are you
Mhm.
guys hearing, seeing, or anything good news coming out about him?
I mean, everything's. I mean, generally speaking, every positive. People are, this time of year, everyone gets hyped, and all teams, all fans are expecting great things. Deshaun Watson didn't do anything extraordinary when he came back. He went 3-3 when he closed out last season and hadn't played since 2020. Really, everyone's talking about that 2020 season now that he had down in Houston. That even though he threw for over 4,000 yards and had all these great statistics, his team was terrible, and his team finished 4-12. I've written about Deshaun a couple different times, positive and not necessarily negative, but I'm probably more pessimistic as far as I'm not anticipating him to have these grand numbers. But in Cleveland, I don't think you need Deshaun Watson to do everything. It's a system that he's going to have so many offensive weapons, and you also have Nick Chubb in the backfield, which people are recognizing that he's a great running back. Probably one of the best in the league. So
Yeah.
as far as Deshaun, I mean, yeah, I think the overall opinion is excitement,
That's
but there's a price tag attached to that. Always people
Yeah.
always say, oh, 235 million guaranteed. You hear NBA analysts even complaining about the Browns contract. It's crazy. It's like what you have analysts on ESPN complaining
Yeah.
about Deshaun Watson's contract, and I'm like, we're talking basketball, and you guys have the most outrageous contract. So
Right. Yeah. No. And you're right. I mean, and Nick Chubb, my gosh, almost underrated in a way because the
yes,
guy he's to me he's Henry but faster. I don't know. He's he's one of the best. He is the best. Right. I'm going to say he is the best running back in
his
the league.
his his running back coach this last week, Stump Mitchell,
Mm.
discussed Chubb on another podcast here in Cleveland and discussed some of the finer details of getting Chubb to maybe even recognize where there might be a gap or a hole where he could go from that career 5.2 average to 6 yards,
Wow.
which is unreal, and that he's been so consistent. He's going into year 6 and doesn't show any signs of slowing down. He just turned 27 years old. My big concern and question a lot of Browns fans have now are, will they give him an extended contract? Will they offer him something more? Because the everybody else in the NFL is going away from running backs or think that you can have a committee and the running back isn't really being recognized. So this is a unique, again, for Nick Chubb and for the Browns. I hope it gets done, but
Oh, definitely. And I think things. I don't know, man. I'm a Bears fan, so it's always in the running back position's in upheaval. I mean, it's Khalil Herbert and Dante Foreman, and it's a whole and a guy from
right.
Texas they drafted. It's nice to have the guy. I still think it's nice to have the guy. I hope I'm not like an old man thinking this way. I like having the guy that you can turn.
Right.
To me,
Yeah, I don't think they'll get away. I think this whole I write with a variety of writers from different groups, and there's a split. There's a divide amongst us writers, probably like there are among fans, as far as the running back and what he means in the value he has to a team. So I'm just glad the Browns have Nick Chubb, and
oh,
I'm hoping that that's our questions here in Cleveland are, if the Browns struggle again. What about Nick Chubb? What about Myles Garrett? They're going in Myles is going to year 7, Chubb year 6. If they don't succeed, where does that put the team, later on after the season? So,
do you think this is the coaching staff that does it for them, or is this something going to be different? Head coach, all that stuff. I mean, I know they switched the defense, right? And Schwartz is there now, or
yeah,
was
yeah,
there
and
and he took over.
I think it's a good move that the Browns brought him in. And obviously, for me, I mean, I'm looking at it maybe like you that Jim Schwartz is a very solid coach, defensive coordinator, also been a head coach. So that if things did go awry and go south quickly, that's always a possibility. Do I think that Stefanski is here longer? I would like to hope. I would think so. I would hope so. If you ask some of my colleagues that I write for, many of them say that I hate Stefanski, and I've written for and against Stefanski over the years. The things that I like about Stefanski, and if you look at his history, he's got a track record of being, consistent and being in a spot for years. He was in Minnesota for 14 years. His college career as an athlete, his being an assistant, he's a good study. And I think, the Browns, in my opinion, with the AFC North and some of the great teams that are in the AFC North, like the Steelers, have a coach like Mike Tomlin, who's been there for 16, 20 years
Right.
now. I mean, it's getting up there. And so that's kind of where the Browns are right now. I mean, we've won 7 games and 8 games. We had the playoffs games back in 2020 when they won 11. So they've gone down, but what do you rather see? Do you want to see a coach that's there and like an Andy Reid who's, there for the long term? Obviously the Browns have to succeed. So I would say right now that Stefanski and his crew are there, and I like the move for Jim Schwartz. We'll see where things are. The Browns have an early bye week in week 5. So and they have to play every team in the division,
Yeah.
and they come back in week 6 and play the San Francisco 49ers. So it's going to be a brutal start, and if they don't win, I'm concerned. So
Well, like last year, and you could tell me because you watched it all, you watched them all, but from a distance, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Last year's season, because of Deshaun Watson, the suspension, he comes back whenever he comes back. It's kind of a tough one to evaluate. Do you think? I mean,
mhm.
like you don't really know because this is going to be the real thing, is my
Yes,
opinion. How do you feel about that?
I do. I agree with that take. Absolutely. I was on a show with our affiliate with the Fans First group from Pittsburgh, the Steel Curtain Network, and they had invited myself and then a colleague from the Cincinnati Bengals, and we were talking about Deshaun, and the Bengals announcer, he feels like you gave him 6 games, give him a full season, so that would be another 11 games. So really, he doesn't feel, and this is Cincinnati fella talking, that he doesn't think that we should really fully assess Deshaun until he's gone 10 or 11 games this season. I don't know if I don't go back that far. I think you know we need to see results. I mean, the Browns have made some real big moves, and they've invested in Deshaun Watson, so they need to have results. And I do think he'll be better. Everything, like I said earlier, people are seeing great things. He's a studious kind of player. From my understanding, he studies the playbook. He's constantly in that, and I think he's invested in this. And I think obviously, he wants to win. He wants to succeed. He's had a lot going on off the field. It'd be nice if they win.
Yeah.
People tend to kind of forget a little bit about what's happened in the past. So,
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I wanted to ask you before I got into those first 4 games, what defense do the Browns play? And I know it sounds like a
yeah,
foolish question, but I think it's 4-3, right?
yes.
Okay.
And yeah, and my understanding, and I'm not versed in every detail either. The biggest difference I'm hearing is that Joe Woods, the former defensive coordinator, played more zone schemes.
Okay.
Schwartz is more man to man. He won't be necessarily blitzing every play, but he likes to do more man to man coverage. We also have really a true free safety in Juan Thornhill now, who came over from the Kansas City Chiefs, which is a big move, I think. Some people have been talking about it, but I think that could be a real big deal for the Browns secondary. Our defense has been torn up in our secondary over the last couple of years. I saw a lot of question marks about Denzel Ward, who's been very inconsistent, in my opinion. He's been injured, concussed, some things like that. So, yeah, so that's the kind of defense. Yeah, 4-3.
Nah, yeah, I was wondering now, and let's talk about those first 4 games. It's if you don't know out there, it's the Bengals at home, then it's at Pittsburgh. You mix Tennessee in there at home, and then Baltimore, I believe.
Yeah, yes.
Wow. I mean, you want to talk about knowing something right off the bat. What a huge game 1 would be. Beat Cincinnati. What a
Well, and
message.
a lot of people don't know this, but the Browns are 5-1 against the Bengals under Stefanski.
Oh, wow.
So, also what a lot of fans don't know, and it took me a little bit of research the other night to figure this out. I had this as our trivia question last night on our Fanatical Elvz show. Was when was the last time the Browns won back-to-back opening week 1 wins, home or away?
Oh,
And we had to go all the way back to 1993 and 1994,
geez.
30 years ago, that they actually won in week 1 both those years. It's been that long. So, seeing them beat Carolina was great last year in Baker Mayfield, but it took a 50-some yard field goal to do that. It's a tough schedule. You're right. It is. And week 2, I'm hoping that the Browns' new all white, slick
Yeah.
uniforms with the white helmets bring them some good luck on Monday Night Football when they play the Steelers. Browns have a hard time beating Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. They did beat them in the playoff game back in 2020, but that was without any fans. And there you go. And I've said many times that I love them. Yep, the Steelers could bring the guy down from the hot dog. The guy that the hot dog vendor could run down to the field and put on a Pittsburgh uniform, and he'd still probably help the team win. So, yeah. And then they play Tennessee, which is again the forgotten game, which is going to be tough because Tennessee's always tough. They're always tough. Vrabel's the coach, right? And then they come back and have to play Baltimore at home before they go on this bye. So, I mean, it's very conceivable to think that, I mean, the Browns could either be 0-4, 1-3. Some people say, well, they could be 4-0. And most teams aren't 4-0. And even good teams struggle out of the gate. So we'll see what happens. My panic button is if they are 1-3 or especially 0-4 going into that bye week, then going back to Stefanski, I mean, this place is going to come unglued.
Sure. Yeah. I could. Oh my God. Yeah. I was looking at the division. We were doing this last week, and we felt like I was talking with Scott, it was just us. The Steelers, the Bengals are obviously going to be the top. The Browns, I feel like, are right. I don't know why. To me, I feel like they're right there. Like they're going to be a pain in the ass to the Bengals. I really think that they are going to be there. I think the Ravens are going to be I don't really like them much this year, but I kind of like the Steelers. I don't know. There's something about them that's making me feel like I'm not saying
they always win. Yeah.
Maybe they win 9 games. They win.
Right. They don't. They have Pickett is their quarterback. I don't think he's the long-term answer for them. I think he's sort of like that bridge player, or that to kind of bridge the gap to whomever they end up getting next. But yeah, definitely. I think on our podcast we keep talking just how we keep asking ourselves, my contributors, like, what are the Ravens doing? I really do think that they've gone off the deep end. They had such a great, strong front office there with Ozzie Newsome, the former Brown, and everything going over there. They've lost their way. We don't know what they're doing. They're signing all these former first-round wide receivers. And I don't know. The Bengals, when I talk to the Bengals folks, they talk about they've lost most of their defensive backs, their cornerbacks, in the secondary. So, yeah, I definitely think the Browns can win that week 1. And Baltimore, I see. It was funny. I saw somebody posted that Baltimore was going to have a 15-2 record. I don't know what it was I saw on social media, and I was like, who put that down? But I mean, you got Lamar Jackson. I get that, but I don't know what they're doing there. If you can tell me what they're doing, that'd be great.
I'll tell you what, 15-2. I could almost, if someone would have said 2-15, I could say that closer than the other way.
Right.
Because I'm not. I mean, Odell Beckham, I'm sure won't. How the hell does he play the whole season? We know what's going to happen. I mean, we know.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like them at all this year. Love the Steelers a bit, but the whole conference is tough though. The AFC compared to the NFC is just the East is incredibly good. Your guys' division. So
you could have 3 teams. I think that's what we've said too. Is that the Browns, the Bengals, and the Steelers could all potentially make the playoffs. The Browns have not won a division in 34 years. The last time they won the division was 34, so it would have been 1989 was the last time the Browns actually won a division title. That was the old AFC Central.
Yes, the good days. I love those times.
Yes.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time up there. I don't think I told you this before, but I grew up in a family that was all Browns fans. Every one of them up here. I'm in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And anyway, did I tell you? So I spent a lot of time, man, at Municipal Stadium, and love thinking of those games.
Were you at that game in '89 when the Bills came to Cleveland?
I was when BB got dumped on his head.
Yeah, I was there too. Yeah, that was a great game. I'm glad that Clay Matthews got the interception. Speaking of a guy that should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. Yes, that game was one of the best games I've ever seen live in my life. I don't
know how you lost that. I honestly don't know how the Bills really, as I recall, they had opportunity after
Mhm.
opportunity to really
Well,
win that game.
Ronnie Harmon drops that pass, and then that's it.
Yes,
You know,
yes,
it's great.
yeah.
It
Was
was a
that like
great
a
game.
second or third down? He was wide open in the end zone, right? Pretty
I
much,
never,
as I
I,
re-
the best game I ever seen. I got to tell you, at least playoff game live. I never seen anything like that back and forth,
that
back and
was
forth.
yes.
It was,
The only thing I will say that I compare that to now is back in 2021 or 2020 season when the Browns played the Baltimore Ravens in Cleveland. It was in December, and Kareem Hunt and all those guys, Baker Mayfield, they went back and forth. I think the final score was like 45 to 40 or
yeah,
47-42 or something. That was a crazy second half. They were going back and forth. That was the same game that where Lamar Jackson got sick to his stomach and he
right.
left for a little bit and then he came back and it made for a dramatic. It was going to be whoever had the ball last, and that's pretty much what happened.
John, two last things before I let you go, because I know I said 30 minutes, so I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep that to it. I got two things I want to ask you. This is way, way, way too early. Browns win 10, at least, you think, or what do you? Can you?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think some of my predictions. I'm going with 10 or 11 wins. Yeah, most of the time when I've looked at through the schedule, that's what I come up with.
Yeah, because I was looking through it a little bit myself. I kind of did too. I mean, it's a tough schedule though, obviously, but there's a few spots that Arizona,
Well, it's
Chicago, there's a
yeah. I
few.
don't see them winning. Like they go out to Seattle. They
Oh,
don't. They've
never.
only been to Seattle like they've only been to Seattle 3 times over the last like 30 years. And
Disaster.
every time they go out there, they lose. My daughter and boyfriend, her boyfriend, they live out there in
Hmm.
Seattle, and actually was just out there a couple weekends ago, and they're probably going to go to the game. I'd like to go out there for that, but
Oh.
it's like, well, they're probably going to lose. So
Man,
that's
yeah,
that's
Seattle. I remember, like I said, growing up with a bunch of Browns fans around me, and for some reason in 1979, I defected to the Bears because of Walter Payton. But a bunch of Browns fans, family,
yeah,
and I just remember those games in the Kingdome. Oh my God, it would
yes.
always just be, it would just always be gut wrenching.
Mike, what was your? It was who was your quarterback? Zorn,
I think they had
or
yeah, yeah, yeah. It would have been him. It
it
would have
was
been him.
Steve Largent.
Mark,
Was he still
he,
Steve
he,
Largent? Was he the wide receiver?
would have been there. Yeah, oh, yeah, he'd have still been going. And then
Mike Zorn was the quarterback, I believe.
yeah,
That's what
Jim Zorn.
Jim Zorn. Yeah, there you go.
Yep. He
Okay.
was there. Now I got to ask you one last thing before you go. We talked about the white uniforms. I love them. There's the helmet. Isn't there some? You know this. There's a history behind this. This just didn't show up, right?
Oh, right. No, absolutely. The team, and it's funny because we were talking about this last night on our Fanatical Elvz show, and a lot of teams wore white helmets back in the day, especially in the 40s. But when the Browns came in, they were wearing an all white uniform. They had a white helmet, no face guard or whatnot. And from 46 to 19 through the 51 season, they exclusively wore the white helmet and with the white jersey. So they've added a little bit more modern look to it now, and they won 5 titles in between 46 and 51. So I've said, when you get to wear something new and you go have a new job or you go out on a date or something, you always feel a little bit special. And so maybe the Browns will get a little bit of extra boost of positivity
Yeah,
and
no,
help.
they look good, man. And I knew there was a story behind it, and I was trying to tell somebody they just didn't pick this. Like this wasn't just like, hey, let's make them
Well,
white.
and it's so funny. It's the
Yeah.
and the back or something. Not a lot of backlash, but there's a few things. Like the Bengals. There were some folks
Oh,
in the Bengals organization that were, because they had just released their alternative ones a couple of years ago, and they were like, "Oh, come on!" Like, and that's just so funny because if you go back in history, I mean, the Bengals. Paul Brown moves to Cincinnati, creates the Bengals, the same color scheme as the Browns. So it's the Penn State fans there. I heard saw some reaction from some
oh,
alumni there in Penn State. It's like the all white helmet, like the Browns are stealing them. It's like, really? Like there's so many teams in the past. It's not even worth a conversation that you bring this up. I mean, you obviously don't pay attention to football or history. So
John, one last thing, and I lied. I got one more. You Do you know or do you hear anything? It's an Ohio State question. And I know I'm kind of going off the quarterback
Yeah,
going to be McCord? Who's going to be the quarterback, you think? Or is it going to be a double thing? Because I know the kid's
I
supposed to be really good.
yeah, I don't. I'm gonna have to do some research on that
Okay.
area. I
Okay.
live here in Columbus, and I should. What I do know is the Buckeyes announced they're gonna wear their all gray uniforms for the Michigan State game,
I
which
seen that.
surprised me because their record overall is 25-7 with those uniforms, and I'm like, well, that's not actually very good.
Yeah,
I mean, it's good,
for
but I
them.
would have thought it would have been like 30-3 or so. Yeah, because you think about Buckeye teams recent, it's like they win, they lose one or two,
If
maybe
if
3 games a season, but
if they lose to Michigan again, I mean Ryan Day's got to be on some sort of a hot seat because that'll be three in a row.
oh, for
He can't.
sure. No, I definitely, yeah, that could
Yeah,
definitely be.
yeah.
I'm not a real fan of. I'm not. I've never been sold on Ryan Day.
Mhm.
Even when he got here, I'm probably the only person in Columbus that feels that way. But it's when you're a Buckeye fan and you're a Buckeye fan. I've always been a Buckeye fan just because. I mean, the Buckeyes and their organization, they get the cream of the crop. I mean, like all these top tier teams. Columbus. I mean, I've lived in Columbus now for 5 or 6 years now, and never said I would do that when I was a kid growing up near Cleveland. Okay, but they Columbus treats their Ohio State Buckeyes like a pro team here. I mean, it's all over the news, all over the TV every day. So yeah, we'll see. I Buckeyes should have a good team again. So
Yeah, they will. They just got to beat Michigan. I can't. You can't go through another year because social media is deadly when they lose to Michigan. It's just
yeah, if they lose to Michigan this year, I got to think that Ryan Day would be like done. Like he'd
done.
be like that would be yeah. Like
All right, John, I'm going to let you go. Can you tell everybody again where to find you? And because I know you're not just talking
yeah,
broad, you talk everything, right, Cleve? Like Indians and
yes,
Cavs and
yes.
everything.
Yeah, mostly Cavs. Yeah, so yeah, I work for we do the podcasting with this Fanatical Elves network. It would be great if your followers could find us. We're on Apple, where it's the Fanatical Elves ELFZ network. We're on Apple, Spotify. If they could just follow us, then we get those downloads, and that's really what we would love. And we've got some great contributors. We've got 5 or 6 guys all over Ohio that contribute to our podcast. We have a podcast every day. Sometimes we have 2 podcasts. We have shows like what the Elf is that. We've got the Johnny Cleveland podcast, which is mine. We've got the Fanatical Elves show. We've got football philosophy and rocket science show, and we've got the Browns Blitz with Rod Bloom. Great
Oh,
guy, great writer. Yeah, you can find me on social media. I'm on on our social media platforms. We're on the Fanatical Elves network, and we're on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. You just type in Fanatical Elves. Yeah, myself, my name login is just John Suchan, Suchan. It's probably there on the screen if you're watching this. You can find me on Twitter and Facebook. Yeah, it's great. I write for Dog Pound Daily. I've been starting to write now for Northeast Ohio Sports Insiders, which is a great group up in Cleveland, and excited. I'm getting credentialed. Going to be up there
nice.
in Cleveland this year for the games
How
and
cool.
covering that. So
Wow.
I'm super excited. Yeah. So that's where you can find us. And I also, like you said, I do write for King James Gospel, which is the fan sided for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And so check us out there. It's a tight, fan side's a great group, and I write for Dog Pound Daily and a few other things.
All right. Well,
So
John, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to be with me. And I'm going to definitely be reaching out again. I'll talk to you all season because I'd
yeah,
like to
that'd be
get
great.
you back. Bears
Awesome.
play the Bears play you guys some point at the end of the season, I
At
think.
the end
And
of the season, they do, yeah. So, well, good. Have a good rest of your preseason here as we get geared up for the regular season.
all right,
Always
John.
nice to talk to you. Thank
Nice
you.
talking to you, John. Take it easy.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye. So that was John Suchan, and you heard he's everywhere. He's credentialed, which is cool. So that means he'll be able to be inside press conferences, locker rooms, and things like that. He knows everything that you'd need to know about Cleveland sports, and probably I caught him off guard on Ohio State sports, but that's because I knew he was in Columbus. But that doesn't mean I'm an idiot. I shouldn't have asked that question. But All right. Why don't we take a quick break? When we come back, we'll recap a little. I got one little thing to say, and then we'll probably get out of here. So, we'll be back in a moment.
Digits 988 can save a life. If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, 988 provides connection to free confidential support. There is hope. The Lifeline works. For 24/7 confidential support, just call, text, or chat 988.
Back to Spitball and Sports. You can see I'm alone because our guy Scott is, and it's bad. He's got the hiccups and he gets them for days. As you guys know, I think we talked about it one time. I think he had him on the air one time.
It's a terrible thing to be afflicted by, the hiccup, the just chronic hiccups. I can't even.
Had them, Bo Jackson.
Right.
Very bad.
Yeah.
So John Suchan, he told everywhere, the Elvz with a Z network is where you find him, and all the Fanatical Elvz, right, with a Z,
right,
and Dog Pound Daily, Johnny Cleveland podcast is his podcast. He's all over. If you like Cleveland sports and just the NFL in general, especially the AFC North, you'll love to have him around. Robin's here with me. What else? I thought we learned a lot about, if. And this is my opinion. If Deshaun Watson's good, they're going to be good.
Oh, I agree.
And I'm talking, he doesn't, I agree with John. He doesn't have to be spectacular.
Right.
Just good.
I think they built that team around him to lend it to be successful, for him to be successful. And I think if he does the bare minimum, they'll be good. If he's anywhere near what he used to be, they'll be really good.
Yeah. Yeah, they will be. As long as they stay healthy, and of course their backfield, he's right, the defensive backs.
Yeah.
Next week, hopefully, we will have a Steelers guy. We're working on a Vikings guy. We're going to work on any team we can get a hold of as we're here in the off season to hear what they're thinking. Because you kind of, when you're here, we hear everything. Because this podcast we're in Niagara Falls, New York, near Buffalo, so we hear a lot of Bills stuff because we live here. Even though we have the internet, we can find what we want, but it's just in your ear no matter what. So we kind of do hear things. I'm also going to reach out to Robert Butler. We got to get him on because he's a Tennessee guy. So we can use him for the Titans.
Can we find a Bears person?
I'll try. Yeah, as long not me.
Right.
Someone other than me.
Yeah, other than you. I want someone to have dialogue with you.
Well, I went on that Lions podcast. I'm going to see about him too, coming to be the Lions guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know what? I wanted to say something real quick before we're not going to stay on too much longer. But as of tonight, here I actually got the standings. Now the games have kicked off for first pitches, a lot of them. You can see the standings right there, the American League East. The Yankees sit at 50-47. They're 9.5 games back from Baltimore. And honestly, I don't care where they are in the wild card. Could care less about the wild card, because to tell you the truth, if they squeak in as a wild card, then It's just mediocre garbage. You know what I mean? They're going to get knocked out if they squeak in. They're playing the 28-70 Kansas City Royals starting tonight. They just got swept out by the Angels. Who beat them before? 2 out of 3. I can't even remember. Was it Seattle? Maybe. Not sure, but whatever. They lost 2 out of 3 to whoever that was, and they lost 3 straight to the Angels. And here are the Royals, 28-70. What more would it take? Because if you fire Aaron Boone, that's not enough. Robin, it's not enough. You got to fire Cashman.
I agree. I'll be shocked if they fire Cashman.
They'll never be good again if he stays. They just won't. There's something, I don't know what it is. Think about it. They haven't been good in a long time, really.
Yeah, I think Cashman should go. I'm all for him.
I don't think any manager could manage. I don't care who the manager was.
Right. I don't like Aaron Boone, but I agree it's not his fault.
Yeah, I don't like him either, and it's time to go. He's been there a long time. Just go ahead. But without Cashman going, I don't care if they bring Mattingly. I don't care if they bring. I don't care who comes back. Billy Martin could. It doesn't matter. This team can't win.
Right.
The guys that are their veterans just aren't any good. They can't. They just seem to. They're small in big situations, and obviously situations have been big with Judge out.
Right.
Rizzo, Stanton, DJ LeMahieu, just very bad. They're just bad.
Right.
You can't go with all 3 being bad. You could have one of them. You can't have all 3 of them, in my mind. Like if you want if you're going to keep Stanton, get rid of the other guys. If you want, Rizzo, fine. DJ LeMahieu has become a big waste.
Yeah.
He was a batting champion, batted 348 in Colorado. I don't know if he's even come close to 300 in New York. That's 245.
Yeah.
So I just think that they gotta do something a little more bold than even firing Aaron Boone. Because then it's just, I mean, you got Jason Dominguez, who's supposed to be really good. I think he's 19. He had a bunch of homers. He's doing good in Double A. Yeah. They call him a Martian. So you know what that means. They're putting a lot of expectations. He's supposed to be great.
Right.
You still have Judge, obviously, there. You have Volpe. There's some other young guys. You got Brito. He pitched pretty well. You got some things, but you got to just sometimes you got to lose.
Yeah. Like
the Red Sox did that. Actually, they won a World Series, if you recall, and then tore down.
Right.
And then came back. This was years, a little bit ago. But still, the Yankees have never done it. They stay mediocre. Or
they haven't torn down since their championship years.
When have they won a division? I can't remember. Yeah. With the Rays handling it all, and now the Orioles, which is nice to see on the Orioles' part. The Blue Jays are playing well. The Yankees are in big trouble and probably should do nothing at the deadline but sell. Why are you buying? What are you going to trade for?
Right.
There's nothing to trade. If you could get someone to take these guys away, it would probably be a good idea. And I don't know what you tell Aaron Judge at that point, but things can't continue. You're going to keep this. He's going to come in the lineup, and it's not going to matter because what are they going to do? They're 3 games under 500 right now. So if they have a good run, they end up 10 games over 500. They squeak into the playoffs. They're going to get knocked out.
Yeah.
Garrett Cole's pitching great this year. We know how he pitches. I don't know. It doesn't translate to the playoffs for some reason for him. Herman Severino's up and down. Herman had a perfect game. He's pitched fine. Severino pitched fine the other day, and they lost.
Right.
8-7 in extra innings or whatever it was, but he had pitched well. So I just think that it's time for them to really make it. If it's not going to be till the off season, fine. I mean, maybe it could just lose then. But don't go do stupid things at the deadline. Don't bring in any more guys. Don't bring in any more Rondones or the guy who Montrose or whatever. He pitched maybe 3 games. And now I think he's hurt and done. He might be done. So you get what I'm saying? Don't bother.
Yeah.
Enough with bringing in players. You're not getting Ohtani. Forget it. If you want Ohtani, you're going to have to trade Judge. I don't believe that they're going to say, okay, yeah, give me Volpe. And you're not getting – I'm seeing some of the trades online. I'm like, what the hell? They're not going to do that.
Right.
They're not going to trade for Garrett Cole, Volpe, and I forgot what the other name was. You're not even bringing – you're going to be trading Dominguez. You're going to be trading – and Judge's name's going to come up. It came up – remember when we talked about Soto and stuff?
Right.
With everything. And when he was talking about going to San Francisco and there was a a thought of trading him and not losing him.
Right.
So I don't know. They're in big trouble. I don't. And if you're a Yankees fan watching, you almost have to hope they lose. I don't see them sweeping Kansas City as being a good thing.
No.
You know, what's the point? You have to.
Why bother?
This is a season where they could finally bottom out and do something different. But if they come back with Cashman, let me this way. In hockey, it's like Lou Lamoriello. It's the same thing. That guy's still around and he makes mistakes over and over with the Islanders, in my opinion. That's why they can't score. And Cashman's kind of getting the same thing. Think about it, he's been around a long, long time.
Yeah.
Real long time.
Too long.
Yeah. All right. Why don't we wrap it up here? I want to thank John Suchan for joining us. What was the name again? The Elvz? Say it again. Elvz.
Fanatical Elvz.
With a Z.
Right.
Fanatical Elvz with a Z network. Dog Pound Daily. ClevelandSportsTalk.com. Johnny Cleveland Podcast. He's in a bunch of other podcasts. Reach out to him on Twitter, John Suchan. You got Browns questions, NFC, AFC North questions. You know, check him out. That's how I found him, and he's great. And with all that, he's busy. It's kind of nice of him to come on. And now he's getting credentialed.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys around me getting credentialed. It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
You know?
Very nice.
Yeah. Our guy Jim got credentialed. Britt Behringer. John's getting it. That's good.
Yeah.
It's nice because then that's good for us because we can bring him on. Mike Agello's been. Has been. We're going to bring him on to talk about the Yankees. He was going to do that.
Yeah.
But he's in New York. He's going to see the Yankees this weekend. Yeah. So I was going to have him come on soon. I'm going to because he writes for full. I don't know if it's full press or what, but it's MLB. So we'll get him to come on to talk Yankees. I guess tomorrow. Don't forget out there at 2:00, big show. Ken Patera on the Falls Count Anywhere podcast. He was great.
Yeah,
drinking
you don't
beer,
miss this one.
spitting tobacco, swearing, saying stuff about everyone, who he liked, who he disliked, all kinds of stuff. He didn't like Ivan Putski, but you can let him say it himself. All right, why don't we get out of here? We're wishing Scott well, so he'll be back with us next week, so his hiccups will go away. And that's it. We'll be back. What do I got? What do I got tomorrow? Is Falls Count Anywhere 2:00 with Ken Patera. Great one. Citizens United with me and Noel will be here. Don't know what we're doing, but it doesn't really matter. It's a local Niagara Erie County show. Politics, basically everything you could think of show. And then back with Spitball and Sports. All right, guys, thanks for joining us.